I'd like to call our meeting to order. Thank you, board members who are here, for being present for our meeting tonight. We're going to do a little bit out of the order here. We're going to start with the approval of minutes. So could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
And a second? Second. All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Bill. Do we have any discussion on those minutes? All right. Hearing none, can I have a vote? All those in favor say aye of approving the minutes.
Aye. Aye.
And any opposed say nay. All right, our minutes have been approved. At this point, we'd like to invite public comment. Mike, would you give me the list of names? We're keeping it consistent with Mike tonight. We're glad to be here on Bainbridge. We are trying to intentionally move our meetings around the county to give different communities voice to our board as we make decisions and to hear from you. And so thank you to Bainbridge Island for allowing us to use these chambers and to have our meeting here tonight. The only person on the speaker sign up for tonight is Mike Merrill of the Kitsap County Sheriff's Office. Mike, I'd like to invite you to come forward and share whatever you would like with us.
Thank you very much for letting me address you this evening. Just quickly, I don't know if you realized, but I was at last month's meeting and I was at the month's meeting before that and so forth. I've been in attendance at most of them, watching the Circuit of the Northwest project pretty closely. Last meeting, when the Port of Bremerton did their proposal, a financial proposal to how to fund the EVOC facility and the STEM program, I wanted to jump up and make a comment at that point in time, but I wasn't on the list. So I'm hoping you'll allow me just a few minutes to make a couple comments on that this evening. During that proposal, I really wanted to step forward and thank the Port of Bremerton for their ongoing support, as well as noticing how important the EVOC and STEM is. And it's sort of a part of the Circuit of the Northwest project. It's not the project in a whole. And while I was sitting there, I also realized that nobody from law enforcement or fire had come in front of the board and asked you for financial support to help make our EVOC facility and the STEM program a reality. So I'm kind of here this evening to do that. But before I do that, I kind of want to give you a little bit of history about how we got here this evening. I've been with the Sheriff's Office going on my 29th year, and for a little over 20 years, the last 20 years, I've been involved in either the leadership or part of our emergency vehicle operation program. And I can remember using the facility out at the raceway where we're currently at for no cost. The port felt it was so important for us to be able to do that training that they allowed us to use that facility. Over the years, with more people wanting to use that facility, they turned it over to another group to manage it, and there ended up being a cost, but it was pretty reasonable. We used to train with just 3 or 4 people within the county, and it became very clear really quick that there were a lot of agencies on the Olympic Peninsula in the area that didn't have any emergency vehicle operations training, or it had been years since they had. At that time, we started getting a lot of people coming forward and saying, hey, can we be part of your program? And we opened that up, and what it allowed us to do is kind of pass along some costs because we had a bigger pool of people to use the facility, as well as it gave us additional instructors from other agencies. So the way we currently use our training, and that yellow light's gonna freak me out, but the way we use our training today is we divide up our training. So the number of people that attend, we equally divide it into the cost of the facility, as well as the cost to operate our vehicles, fuel costs, maintenance, cones, and everything else. We do training right now basically from 6:45 in the morning until 3:30 in the morning on 2 times a year, which is the first part of April and the last part of October to early November. We now are up to 17 different agencies that train with us. And what we do out there, we're not out there just to teach people to drive fast. We're out there to teach people how to make decisions, the proper decisions. And during our typical day, we start out with a briefing out there that deals with safety issues. It deals with issues that agencies are having, and we pass that along. Then we go into our mock pursuits, which really helps with the decision-making process. When to, they need to follow their policy.
I want to just state, if you're over by a minute.
Okay. All right. Really quick, in April, we have a course coming up. I'd invite all of you to come out to see what it's like. What it comes down to in a nutshell, in 3 minutes is really tough. I could talk about this for an hour and a half or more. But what it comes down to is we're going to lose the facility we have right now. The sheriff has asked me to do some research to see what we can do if we lose this facility. The closest thing that we have is Washington State Patrol in Shelton, which would be about $850 a day, and logistically getting our vehicles and everything else out there would be very troublesome, to say the least. Our costs would go up, and what would end up happening is most likely we would have to cut our training down to once a year. And the other agencies, other 17 agencies that we've been involved with, would most likely be cut out of this because we would have to concentrate on getting ourselves through it. The Circuit of the Northwest project, it's a shovel-ready project that is ready to go, and it's basically our last opportunity, hopefully with your financial help, to get a dedicated EVOC facility where those 17 agencies plus law enforcement can continue to train out there. And basically the sheriffs, police chiefs, fire chiefs, and I would really appreciate your financial support to help make this a reality. This is basically our last chance.
Thank you, Mike, for your comments. And I do want to recognize your perseverance, your dedication to being here the last 3 meetings. So thank you for continuing to advocate for your cause.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
All right. Well, our other board members are here, and that worked into my plans. So I'm glad, because the big question of the night for the board is, have you ever engaged in goat yoga before? So, Tom, why don't you start us?
No, I haven't. I don't even know what it is.
And would you like to try? I guess we'll have you, and would you like to
I'd like to learn about it.
I actually have been investigating it now that it's in Paulsville. Before, the one I was looking at was off the peninsula, so I will be going to goat yoga. In addition, I've also seen kitten and puppy yoga. So, but goat yoga sounds like a blast, and it's here locally.
Well, I don't want to steal Rick's thunder, but his son is a goat yoga purveyor. And so I have been out to Smithshire Farms, which his son owns, and with my son, who's visiting from England, and his lady friend, and I didn't participate, but I observed them doing goat yoga with the goats tromping back and forth on their bodies. So it looked like fun, but I'm glad I wasn't doing it.
Yeah, I have not done goat yoga before. I probably don't plan to, but I did recall in a previous meeting that Smithshire Farms was brought up by our fellow board member Rick Smith, and so when I saw different articles in the newspapers recently, I thought he would want to say more about goat yoga. So no, I have not done goat yoga before, and it looks like it would hurt.
Well, I haven't done it either. I've been reading about it, though. It looks very interesting.
Well, I haven't done it either.
You got to put your
Turn
mic
your
on.
mic on.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't done it either, but I've been there to watch it. and people giggle and so forth. There's they're little goats. They're not big goats. Especially when they're young, they're darling. And it does look like a lot of fun. It may save the Smithshire. The farming is not so good.
Well, for me, I've never done goat yoga or any yoga at all, actually.
So I would like to add, I have owned goats. So I have chased goats around, and they're hard to lead.
But none of them have ridden you?
I'm sorry?
None of them have ridden you?
No.
Ridden horses.
Well, thank you for engaging my question, and mostly I wanted to give Rick a shout out for the goat yoga that was going out on the farm. So
Seems to be a success out there.
yeah, if you do it, you will have to report back to us what it's like to do goat yoga.
Well, the problem is I don't know how to do yoga at all. But the people that do yoga seem to enjoy it.
I'll bring you pictures, okay? Because I'm definitely
Okay,
going to
that'd
do
be
it.
great.
Yeah, all right.
Incriminating
Well, Rick,
pictures of me
All
playing.
right.
It would seem that younger goats would have sharper hooves. I don't know if that's true or
It doesn't
not.
seem, I've held them in my lap and handed them off to kids when they have their annual thing. And no, I don't think so. At least I never saw it, noticed.
Okay.
All right, at this point, we'll move on to number 4 in our agenda, the event fund presentation. We'd like to welcome Sunny Saunders to the mic. Sunny, for your portion of presentation, we allot you 5 minutes to share with us, and then we open it up to the board to ask you any questions. So it might take
Great.
longer, but your portion is 5 minutes.
Okay, sounds great. My name is Sunny Saunders. I own Sunny Jack Events. I'm a large-scale event producer and manager. Some of the events I've done is I managed the Kitsap County Fair for 7 years. I now manage Blackberry Festival, Bremerton Bridge Blast, Kitsap Wedding Expo, Kitsap Harbor Festival, and I have a new event I want to that I'm moving forward with and bringing to the table here. It is the Northwest Food Truck Fest, May 2nd at the fairgrounds, located in Concert Park. Concert Park is the field next to the Van Zee up there, where it's a big, just an open grassy field, not the one between the President's Hall and the Van Zee, but the one next to the Van Zee. This event would take place at the same time as Josephine's Revival Vintage Fair.
Yes, it's
Yes, Vintage Fair.
Country Fair Vintage Market.
Country Fair Vintage Market, okay. It is a free event in order to get off the ground. We're not charging admission to the Food Truck Festival. Plan on being open 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Over 25 food trucks, carts, food vendors. We have a beer garden scheduled through the Tracy and Public House. We will be having entertainment all day. The event should draw anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 people on a first-year basis. And let's see. I submitted a budget. I have vendor applications out online as well as sponsorship applications, and it is coming along nicely. The funding would be used for marketing. I am working to create have no out-of-pocket expenses because I am funding this event privately myself. And I think that's all, yeah.
Explain a little bit about the promotion and advertising that you want to do.
It would be digital advertising through Kitsap Sun. Billboard advertising has already been secured through the Mentor Company, Highway 3, and as well as the Claire signs. Committed over $1,000 to those. Facebook advertising, Instagram, and Visit Kitsap has offered to help with some advertising as well. So it'd be regional, Western Washington. Not a lot of print, probably some print.
I saw that you're going to have live music too.
Yes.
What are you going to do for bands?
I am thinking of having all female bands, all female lead bands, so women that rock.
Oh, rock. All right.
Not necessarily rock, but women who rock, as a theme. Yeah. We don't have a lot of showcasing for that type, for that in the area.
Any other questions from the board?
I believe this could become a very large event and a signature regional Western Washington event. It's named as such, Northwest Food Truck Fest, so that we can move it if we need to, but I prefer to stay at the fairgrounds, although the cost of the fairgrounds is getting a little pricey. Bremerton is far less expensive, but I think it's a good location and a good collaboration with Sam.
All right, thank you, Sunny.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I have other handouts if anyone would like any. I'll leave them with you.
Other information?
And sponsor information.
Sonny, how many vendors have signed up to date?
Okay.
I have about 15 food vendors already. 15 food vendors already, and we've got some sponsors that are coming in as well. I expect that final push, the last 45 days of any event is when you're going to really fill your event up.
Any other question? All right, thank you, Sunny.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
So at this point, we're going to decide on if we would like to approve this event fund grant. So can I have a motion from one of you?
Move to approve the event fund grant for this food truck festival.
I'll second.
All right, now discussion.
Seems like a winner to me. We have the Taste of Bainbridge here in the summer, and it's hugely attended. I also think you combine that with, the sort of the trendiness of food truck cuisine these days.
About how many food trucks at that event?
They don't have food trucks at the Taste of Bainbridge. It's just local restaurants that set up booths.
Yeah, that's a familiar format. They do it in different places around the county.
Any other comment?
Well, I'm going to support this. I think it's a good idea, and it's kind of out of the box idea for me. And so I think we could see this kind of an event grow.
Any other thoughts?
I too will support this. I always seem to enjoy whatever food truck I participate with, and I think it would be great to see them, a bunch of them, to walk around and choose among them, and hopefully that would be a good. Most of the events that we get started out there initially do succeed, but this will too.
My wife has a couple of favorite food trucks, and if they're there, she'll probably come out and visit this as well.
All right.
That raises a question. We get closer to it, will there be advertising, listing what types, some of the trucks, or?
Yes, absolutely. So I have a website already up and a space to list the trucks that will be there. And so that's at northwestfoodtruckfest.com. And there's already a Facebook page as well as an event page. And as another note, it's having a tough time getting these food trucks over to Kitsap County. So your advertising fund, your event fund will really help me be able to advertise to that market and bring them in as vendors and food trucks. So, yeah.
All right. Let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right. Motion carries to fund the event fund for Sunny Jack Events and Sunny Saunders. Moving on to number 5, financial reports. Mike, would you take us through these as expeditiously as you can?
I will. I wanted to make one brief comment. We've approved all 3 applications to the total of $15,000 out of our event fund account for this first half of this year. Okay, for the financials, you have a stapled packet in which you have the sales tax rebate summary and the financial statements. The revenue summary for the month of January was $150,300 change. That's up 4.2% over last year. So continuing with mostly up results from last year. There were 2 small negatives last year, but we're starting off reasonably. All this amount is down from the amount of increase last year. Anyway, the debt service, which is around $70,000 a month, leaving $80,000 of the revenue. Their expenses from the month of January were $21,200. So the net to cash for the month of January was $59,100. Any questions about the revenue summary?
I just would say the increase might be 4.2%, which is great. But just looking over the last 5 years, we've gone from roughly 100,000 to 150,000 in 5 years, which is incredible, phenomenal growth. So in the big picture, for it to maintain and even increase the growth that we've seen is impressive.
Yeah, it's been a remarkable run. The financials that you have on the 2 sheets that you're presented, you don't have quite the same picture as you frequently have because I hadn't provided the forecast or the budget for 2020 to the bookkeeper, so she couldn't produce the budget versus actual for the 968 fund, but the expense numbers from salaries, and the big significant one in there is at line 5415A, and I've made a hand note there because previously most of the consulting that we had been doing had been with BRAR, and so that was identified as contractor consulting. But this is actually the invoice that we paid last month for our financial advisor, Northwest Municipal Advisors, Allen. So I've made a hand note and I've contacted the bookkeeper about getting that corrected for the following months.
All right, moving on to the blanket voucher for the KPFD expenses. Mike, any explanation of any of these?
No, it's pretty much standard items except for the annual membership for KEDA, the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. So it's a relatively standard payroll. For once, the legal services weren't topping the list.
All right, can I have a motion to approve?
Approval of the blanket voucher in the amount of $3,513.87.
Was that seconded?
Nobody yet.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion for the blanket voucher approval is completed.
There is a very short backstory about this. I had explained last month that we were approving the last invoice for the Phase 2 expenses, and that was before the Port of Bremerton pointed out that there was $153,000 that they hadn't been compensated for yet, and they produced 3 invoices that they hadn't sent to me yet. And so we're catching up with what should have been paid several months ago in these 3 invoices.
I spoke with Mike earlier, and he assured me that these invoices bring us up to the total that we had already approved as a board. And so this is not going over that amount, but taking us up to that amount. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the voucher.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? Let's vote then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion to approve the blanket voucher for Port of Bremerton Circuit of the Northwest is approved. All right, moving on to...
You have those vouchers in the signatures file, and you should circulate those with the directors at the podium.
All right, on to item number 6 for ongoing business. The first piece is the Department of Commerce feasibility review status. We want to report back to the rest of the board that this past Thursday morning, Bill Mahan and myself and Mike Walton and Brian, our legal counsel, had a phone call, and it was actually a Skype session, I think.
Yes, it was.
With Alan Johnson, Angie Hong, and Susan Musselman to begin to lay out kind of the parameters of our study that we will do with the Department of Commerce in regards to the 3 new partners and 3 new projects. They have to do a feasibility study for that. And so I think what we accomplished is we made introductions. I think the people who are serving us are going to do a good job. They all had quite a bit of experience, and they thought a 4-month timetable was what they were saying for by the time we get all of our documentation to them, what it will take as a turnaround. So that's all we have to report for right now, but it was a good start. Any questions?
I have a question. So we looked at the 3 projects on our list. We've got this Port of Bremerton project also. Has that been looked at by Department of Commerce?
Mike, answer this, but my understanding is no.
Yeah, we have provided information on the Circuit of the Northwest project earlier because we were giving them money, but not for construction. This was development money. And they said it was not necessary to do a study on that at this time, but when we made a commitment for construction. So that was not included in our discussions on Thursday. But if the board and sometime in the future decides to include that in a different ILA, the ILA we have now does not include any money for Circuit of the Northwest for construction. So it's not included at this time.
So my understanding is they need to make a decision on the EVOC sooner versus later, which is why Mike, I don't know what his rank is, was here. So if there's a chance that this board is going to approve for the first responders to have an EVOC down here, then we need to be looking at that, because as he said, that's shovel ready. We've got some projects like our Port Orchard project that are going to be years in the making. How are we going to look at this? Have we just decided that's it? We're only looking at the top three, or what do we need to do next?
Well, all that definitely takes us into our larger conversation that we're going to have on April 27th for our bonding and financing discussion. And the reason that we set that time and that framework was because that's when all 7 of us agreed that we would be there. Now, looky here, all 7 of us are here, and so we weren't expecting that. And so it's good that we're all 7 here, but we haven't prepared to be able to, do that. I think that there aren't easy answers. We have chosen different projects and we have ranked them. And because top projects are going to take longer, I don't think it's appropriate for us to try and rush through projects that are lower because of that. But that is why we're going to have this bonding and financing discussion. So we've only started with the Department of Commerce. Mike is going to work diligently to get them all the information that they need. That's our next step. And then we'll continue to have conversations with them. So, but 4 months is the timeline that they gave or that they spoke. And there is more I wanted to note. Brian did a write-up of our telephone call, which did last for an hour and a half with them. And you can also see in that packet the emails that led up to that discussion as well, so that you're informed on what are we talking about with them. Anything else?
Has the port done anything more with the Circuit of the Northwest people regarding the part of the project that's unfunded, or am I imagining that I heard something about that?
Well, at our last meeting, the Port of Bremerton came and they shared that they were willing to bond for those 2 pieces of the CNW project that they were willing.
If I'd been at the meeting, I would.
Well, it was for the EVOC Center and for the STEM Center.
Yeah.
So they came forward and presented to us. I believe we were in Bremerton that night. Is that right?
Yes.
So they did come forward and say that they were willing to bond for that money.
Well, I'm not sure that, I guess the captain's concern about the EVOC Center if the port has said that they would bond for the cost of that.
Yeah, they were looking to put the bond because we would be doing the payment on
They
it.
wanted us to pay for the bond.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I'm kind of looking at what we're doing.
Very important
Yeah.
piece of information.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they proposed to bond for it and get some compensation after the fact, and that would relate to our discussions, particularly in April, about how we're going to do this. And if we do an allocated financing program, they may be able to be included in that, but there will be more discussions in order to arrive at that kind of an agreement, and whether or not there would be an ILA, some further ILA with Bremerton to accomplish that. So none of that's in place right now.
So did you get I don't remember this part, that they were going to go ahead and bond even without the PFD backing this?
No.
That has never been spoken to us.
No, my impression was that this bonding, it was tied to us. They were going to bond because they knew that's how we could maximize the dollars that we could put out.
And that's going to involve more discussions with the Port of Bremerton. Earlier in the process, they were not willing to stand up and make that kind of a statement that they were going to put a financial stake in the ground on behalf of the port. Now they're saying they would.
Right.
So it kind of changes the circumstances.
Aaron, you bring up a good point. And the problem that I see is that we cannot make any decisions until we have the discussion about finances, about how much we have, I don't think we really know that. We have had some preliminary discussions from our financial consultant, but with the decisions we made, we don't know, as an example, how we're going to fund Port Orchard. We've said we're going to give you this much money for studies, and then in the end, $9 million for construction, but we haven't decided how we're going to do that. Whether we're going to, and we've met with Kitsap Bank, and they said they'll finance it, but then do they finance it with us or Port Orchard or whatever? So that meeting is very important with regard to any other discussion about funding any other projects. The problem I have is that's 2 months away, and I can't understand why we can't, the 7 of us, cannot get together and have this very important discussion about how we're going to finance these projects and in what format. It seems to me that we ought to be able to get together sometime in the next 30 days to have that discussion. I mean, I can't believe that April the 27th is the only day in the next 2 months that 7 of us can meet. I don't understand that. Because it's very important, as you pointed out, to the fact that the shovel-ready project is ready to go. They've started clearing land out there, trees, and they'll be ready to go to bid here in a short period of time.
Yeah, well, I think what I'm looking at, and I understand you did try to find the closest date, and for a variety of reasons,
And
April 27th
for whatever,
is it.
yeah, for whatever reason, I mistakenly showed that Tom wasn't going to be here today. Otherwise, we could have put together that, but I don't have Alan here for one thing. Brian isn't here. So it turns out that this wouldn't necessarily have been a good date anyway. But.
So, and that's what we have going forward on it. So I think what brought it up to me was the commerce conversation, because I do realize, I didn't know it was a 2-month turnaround, did you say, for commerce? Four. You know? So it's kind of like, if we have anything in the ballpark, we should be putting it in front of the Department of Commerce now. And, I know, we don't know how much money we're going to have. We don't know for sure where we're going to put it. Projects that are in or have listed up into the top 3, there may be reasons why we don't move forward with some of those, and we put more in or whatever. That part is all gray still. But I'm just looking at this thinking, from what he's saying about the EVOC, there's going to be a drop dead time. They are, God, I got to stop that. They are moving forward, and it may happen that this thing just happens and we don't get the EVOC and that's it. And we all, as people living on this peninsula, get to deal with that. Or do we throw that into the commerce thing and at least have that being looked at?
Well, I guess the question I have is, we may not have the discussion about the bonding and funding until April. The period of time that the Department of Commerce had identified for starting a study was 4 months from now, so we're going to get the stuff together. That study is going to be a phased study. So the only thing that they're going to study initially is going to be the Heritage Park project, because it will be the first to construction.
I didn't understand it that way, and I think without Brian here too, we should probably limit our comments about that telephone conversation, because my understanding was it was broad in scope and not just for a specific partner.
And being involved in stuff for a long time is going to be more than 4 months, I'll guarantee you that.
So that was 4 months for them to start, or to finish?
No, it is not 4 months for them to start. That is not what they said. But they said that they would have their report to us in 4 months. And there are different opinions on how long will it take. But that is what they have said to us, and so we'll take them at their word. And we need to work fast to get them the information they need so that we can continue on. But we've only had a first phone call, and this is a partnership with them that we need to go through. And so we're going to put our best foot forward with them repeatedly. All right. Any other comments? And then we're going to move on to B.
Real quick, I'll just bring up one that I mentioned to you earlier. I think we probably have to send this to Brian, because looking at the RCW for PFDs, I don't think we're allowed to build an EVOC center. The definition's pretty clear. It's a special event center, and I'll tell you real quick what it is. It's used for community events, sporting events, trade shows, and artistic, musical, theatrical, and other cultural expeditions, presentations, or performances. And that's all we're allowed to bond for, according to the RCW 3557-020. And I don't think the EVOC center is ever going to be open to the public. I know the ones where I work are not, and it doesn't meet any of the other requirements. So before we go much farther, we should have Brian maybe take a look at it and say, is this something we're even allowed to fund?
Well, I think, Pat, you raise a good question. We should find out. But the EVOC Center, as I understand it, is open to the public.
Every one I've ever been to, and I've spent a lot of time on EVOC centers, the public is never allowed to go to them. It's the police and the fire train on them, and you just can't take your car out there and go.
But Brian has testified that that's going to be open to the public.
Well, not the standalone EVOC center. If they had the whole Circuit of the Northwest, there would be parts open to them.
Well, the place they use now is used for multiple purposes, and they are purposely designing this for multiple purposes.
Right.
So it will be open to the public.
Well, I mean, I'd like to have Brian take a look at that and decide what his opinion of open to the public is.
I agree with you.
I don't know if open to the public for me is open to government entities. That's not the public for me.
No, there's public use on that.
And I'd like to see that, because ours has no public use.
I understand what you're saying, but he testified it was going to hold other events on there that were open to the public.
Right. I thought that was for when it was the entire Circuit of the Northwest, not just the standalone.
No, it was specific to the EVOC Center.
Pat, would you like to forward that to Brian as a question to ask him to respond to? Okay, thank you. And then we'll get that information and continue on. Let's move on to 6B, the construction consultant RFQ status. Mike, will you update us on this?
Yeah, very quickly, when you guys gave the approval, I posted that to our website, so it's been out in the Ethernet. I'd also prepared and submitted a public record, not public record, but a public event to the Kitsap Sun. That was published on Thursday last, on the 20th, so it's been published as a public service announcement. I have received one response to date, but the deadline is the end of this week. If I have just one response, I can, with your permission, extend that period of time and reintroduce that request, so that we have a chance of having a competition between several possibilities.
I would think that would be a wise decision, if we only have one person who has responded to it, to put it out again and to have 2 or 3 people who are competing for that position. Correct. So that we have a choice.
Yep.
Mike, will you say again where you actually had it posted? Where did you post the position?
On our website, and then again in the Kitsap Sun on the public notice announcement.
So does it behoove us to find the engineering, construction, hiring websites and be posting it there, so that we're actually putting it in front of the people that may be qualified?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't think that there may be not posts, but bulletin boards or something like that where it could have been posted. And I'll take a look at
like
that.
my husband gets headhunter calls all the time. There's places, even Indeed by itself is a great location for that.
What is?
Indeed.
Oh, Indeed, yeah, okay.
And then I'll make some phone calls and try to find some of the construction areas, and let's post it everywhere we can.
Thank you, Aaron.
Okay, thank you for the suggestions. I will broaden the exposure to the greatest extent that I can.
let's move on to item number 7, new business, the ED activity report. Mike?
That's in your packets, and as are the regional facilities reports. I think if Darren has recommended in the past that you go ahead and read those at your leisure. Some of the things are just detailing what I've worked on for the last couple of months, which is the Department of Commerce and the construction consultant and other items.
All right, thank you, Mike. Item number 8, just to say again, please circle that date on your calendars and keep it for our conversation on financing and bonding for April 27th. And on to number 9, we will now, let me get the exact right language, but we'll go into executive session. The board will be going into executive session as authorized by RCW 42.30.10, 1G, to evaluate the performance of a public employee. It is now 6:19, and we will reconvene at 6:35.
We don't need anybody other than board? I know we've always had Brian here when we do.
That's right. So we'll just have the board here tonight, and Mike, for the control room, if you could cut the videotape at this time, and everybody turn off your mics as well. All right. At this point in time, the executive session is complete, and we'd like to adjourn the meeting. Meeting is adjourned.